Marvel's Echo just dropped, and man, do we have a lot to talk about. But in the short 5-episode runtime, there are actually quite a few things that you might have missed, which is why we're here to break it all down and recap every important plot point and Easter egg. Episode 1 of Echo was titled Chafa and was named after one of the first characters to appear in the episode, who was actually based on an old Choctaw legend of the first Choctaw who was fashioned out of clay. The episode begins with a young version of Maya and Bonnie as they sat in a makeshift tent retelling the story of Chafa, which is fairly accurate when compared to the original Choctaw legends. According to the Choctaw or Choctaw origin, their people were originally made from clay and lived beneath what the Choctaw referred to as Nani Waya, or Mother Mound. In Echo, they showed these Choctaw ancestors as the Mother Mound that they once lived in began to shake. After pulling out a handful of water from a mystical pool, Chafa managed to save her people and help them emerge from the Mother Mound, which in the real world is believed to be located in Mississippi. This was a really interesting way to start the series and let us fans know that Echo is going to take on an ancestral sort of tone. The episode continues by showing young Maya and her mother driving to the store to get some ice cream when tragedy strikes. The brakes in their truck stopped working, and after getting T-boned, both Maya and her mother were sent to the hospital, with Maya becoming the only survivor. A mother wasn't the only thing Maya lost in the accident though. That's also when she lost one of her legs. Maya and her father start their new life in New York City, far away from their past, which is when the show starts blending into Hawkeye and recapping everything that we knew about Echo up until that point. This ultimately includes her uncle/niece type relationship with Wilson Fisk, and the fact that she tried to kill him by shooting him in the head after finding out he was responsible for her father's death. The coolest part of this whole recap though had to be some of the original scenes they added in, like that Daredevil fight scene. Sure, the choreography could have used a lot of work, and compared to the Daredevil series, it seemed a little bit lackluster, but on its own, the fight was epic, and it also gave us some insight into what Daredevil was up to during the whole Thanos snap incident. I mean, obviously he didn't blip away with half the population, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to fight Echo during the flashback. There's a small chance that this could mean Daredevil Born Again might be set during the Thanos blip, but we'll have to wait and see for that one. Fast forward to the present day in Echo, and Maya was still severely wounded from the Hawkeye finale. To get patched up, Maya takes her motorcycle and heads back to her hometown in Oklahoma, where she enlisted the help of her cousin Biscuits after he found her hiding in her childhood home. She tries to keep Biscuits from telling her other relatives that she's back, but this only lasts so long. Maya ended up meeting up with her uncle Henry, who runs a DJ booth at their local skating rink. Henry manages to find a doctor to patch Maya up before she can go and spy on her old friend Bonnie, and then ultimately heads over to a warehouse that was being overlooked by Kingpin's men. This is where the episode ends, as Maya explains to her uncle Henry that the king has had his time. Now it's time for New York to have a queen. The episode officially wrapped up by showing fans a brief glimpse at Wilson Fisk sitting in a hospital bed with a bandage on his head to cover up the wound that Echo gave him. The second episode of Echo, titled Loak, opened with another flashback into Maya's ancestry. This time, the Choctaw tribe is in the midst of a heated game of Ishtaboli, or stickball. According to history, Ishtaboli was an ancient game that was played by several different Native American tribes, and it was originally used to help settle disputes and ultimately avoid warfare. The scene seems to hold a very similar tension, and though it's unclear what dispute they were trying to settle, at one point Loak, a woman on the red team, showed her connection to their ancestor Chafa and won them the game. Flash forward to the present, and Maya is still in her hometown with Biscuits. By this point, Maya was still trying to keep her presence in her hometown a secret, but it wasn't going very well. Even her grandma Chula knew that she was back at this point. The episode continues with Maya recruiting Biscuits to take her on a little drive. And by a little drive, I mean taking her to jump onto a moving train so that she could plant what later turned out to be a bomb in a specific box. Maya managed to get the job done, but in the process, she busted up her prosthetic leg, which meant she had to ask another relative for help. Thankfully, Grandpa Scully offered to not only make her a temporary prosthetic in that moment, but he also told her to stay in town for a bit and he would build her an even better one. Meanwhile, the train that Maya boarded earlier in the episode eventually made it to its destination, only to have the box that Maya tampered with explode and destroy one of Fisk's armories. The episode ends with Uncle Henry trying to talk Maya out of her destructive path, but it's clear that she has a single goal in her mind, and that's to take over Fisk's entire operation. The third episode of Echo was given the title Tuklo, and just like its two predecessors, it opens up with a scene from the past. This time, it's an old black and white story of the titular character Tuklo, the first female light horse. The light horse police were a real tribal police force that was established in the late 1700s. In Echo, Tuklo was denied access to the light horse police because she was a woman. However, she was able to access the powers of her ancestors just like Loak did. In doing so, she managed to save an entire regiment of light horse police when they needed it most. Which begs the question, is Maya going to be the MCU's one for all, with her power being the ability to access all of her ancestors' powers? Where are all my Hero Academy fans at for that one? Back in the present, Maya's grandma visits her grandfather's pawn shop, and the two have a brief discussion about Maya's presence in town. Meanwhile, Maya was out for a walk through the woods and had a vision of her ancestors before being ambushed from behind and brought back to the roller rink, where Vicky plans to sell her back to Fisk. And for anyone who might not have noticed, the actor who played Vicky in Echo, Thomas Sullivan, also played Nathaniel Malick Alec in Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That being said, Maya wasn't the only person that Vicky and her 2-bit crew managed to capture. They also apprehended Maya's friend Bonnie when she was snooping around, which turned out to be a big mistake for them because that was all the motivation Maya needed to ruin their entire lives. After Maya and Bonnie have a heated conversation about how the former never stayed in touch after moving away, they begin planning for Maya's brutal onslaught. Sadly for Vicky, his hostages weren't the only threats that he wasn't aware of. As Fisk's crew shows up to take Maya back to New York, they quickly reveal that they aren't there to pay Vicky and riddle him with bullet holes instead. This is when Maya springs into action, and after killing the lights and cranking up Dragula by Rob Zombie, she started taking out Fisk's men one by one. It's all brought to a swift end though when Zane walks up to Maya with a gun pressed to Bonnie's head. The only thing that stopped Fisk's men from killing Maya and Bonnie right at that moment was a phone call that Zane got telling them to fall back. And it became really clear who made that call at the end of the episode when Maya returns to her childhood home, only to find Fisk standing right outside of it. Maya was officially face to face with Kingpin once again. The 4th episode of Echo Taloa started a bit differently than the others. Instead of a flashback to Maya's ancestral line, it's a flashback to her childhood around Wilson Fisk. The episode opens with a young Maya attempting to buy ice cream. However, the man behind the counter can't get beyond the communication barrier and refuses to serve her. This prompts Fisk to have the man dragged out to an alleyway beside the store and beat him to a pulp, with young Maya inevitably stepping in and taking a few shots for herself. The flashback continues, but this time it's 2021 as Fisk is telling Maya that her training is complete, essentially confirming that he turned her into his very own weapon. This, of course, is wrapped up by Fisk having her ASL interpreter killed right in front of her eyes. Flash forward to the present time, and Fisk is enjoying a very tense meal at Maya's childhood home before making her a very interesting offer. Kingpin claims that he will hand Maya an empire of her own to rule over. All she has to do is return to New York with him. Thankfully, Maya has people who are actually looking out for her at this point, and Uncle Henry does his best to remind her the type of person that Fisk really is. As she was speaking with her Uncle Henry though, Maya began having a vision of her Choctaw ancestors, and at the exact same time, her grandmother had the same vision. The kicker here is that they were at completely different locations when the vision struck. Maya and her grandmother Chula end up having a deep conversation about their ancestry, which was followed by a heartbreaking moment when Maya realized she couldn't forgive Chula for casting her and her father out of the family. It was at this point that Maya headed over to the casino to confront Fisk, who interestingly enough showed her a very familiar weapon, the hammer that he used to kill his father in the Netflix Daredevil series. Fisk insists that Maya use the same hammer to kill him, but Maya, having a semi-change of heart, decides not to kill him, but instead to leave the casino, supposedly cutting ties with him forever, setting up the stage for the final episode of the season. The 5th and final episode of Echo Season 1 was named Maya after the main character. The episode starts off with a young version of Maya pulling some real serial killer type moves, shooting a bird with a rock from her slingshot. Thankfully, she brought it to her mother Taloa, who was able to heal the bird with her ancestral powers and bring it back to life. Flash to modern time, and Grandma Chula is shown collecting her old sewing machine from Scully, as she said she had a special job to do. As Maya was getting ready to leave town for good, she was stopped when Biscuits called her asking if she'd seen Bonnie or Pockney, because neither of them had shown up to the native powwow by that point. Maya decided to head home and reach out to the spirit of her mother so that they could reconnect. And it's there that Maya realized that she's not alone anymore. She has her ancestors and her entire family looking out for her. Taloa urged Maya to use her powers to fight for her ancestral home, and then showed her the new suit Chula had crafted her. Maya puts on her new suit and then heads over to the powwow to put an end to Fisk and his goons for good. Biscuits and Uncle Henry are doing everything they can to keep the civilians in the festival safe, while Maya and Kingpin meet face to face in the barn. It's revealed to Maya that Fisk was holding Chula and Bonnie hostage and was preparing to kill them. What he didn't account for though was the fact that Maya had dope ancestral powers now and was ready to rock him with the help from her grandmother and best friend. The trio quickly began taking out Fisk's men after connecting with their ancestors, but sadly, as quick as the fight started, it was over. Maya pulled some Avatar: The Last Airbender stunt and pressed her fingers on Kingpin's head, which seemed to heal the part of his mind that was shattered on the day he killed his dad. She took his anger away and in turn took his power away. The fight was over and Kingpin just left. The episode and season seemed to end there, with the post-credits scene showing Wilson Fisk being inspired to run for mayor when he gets back to New York City. Interestingly enough, this is most likely set up for Daredevil's Born Again, which is another series that I'm super hyped for. All in all, Echo was a decent series that I think could have used at least 3 to 5 more episodes to really build up the characters and give fans the story that they deserve. But all in all, it was a fun 3-hour-long viewing experience, and I'm curious to hear what you thought of Marvel's Echo. Did you like it? And how do you think they could have made it better? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the breakdown, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more of your favorite series being broken down. And we just popped up another breakdown on your screen right now. Go ahead and click that. I'll see you over there.